us begin, I'd like to thank Edith for taking all the time and preparation that was necessary to
No
put together.
preparation.
But there,
Just the traffic.
there was traffic, but there was a lot of preparation on her part to
No,
decide
I'm
what
beyond
form-
that.
Beyond that, but I'm very glad she could come. Thank you everyone for coming today. It's a very special chance to hear Edith read. So without many more introductions, this will just flow as Edith decides it to do. So thank you very much again, and Edith, would you please?
Thank you, Judy. If you can't hear me, make some signal, because I can't hear, I can't see. For your information, I'm 88 1/3 now, so just bear with me on where it becomes necessary. Thank you for coming on a holiday. And I wondered what I would read today. Some of you have heard me before, and several times. And I got to thinking about what I've done about form and imagery over the years. And it does follow a pattern, a changing pattern over the years in my forms and the images I use. But I stick mainly to nature. And perhaps the thing that's influenced me much is the image that we have in Buddhism, when the Buddha just held up a flower and said nothing. And I like to think that is sort of imagery that influences my poetry. The surface imagery is mountains and flowers. Over and over again, I get much out of just looking at Judy's lovely arrangement here, the simple flowers with an exotic flower. I respond to those still. And years ago, Richard Steiner did this book when he wasn't so well known, and the publisher, White Pine Press, was just starting. This was perhaps just the 3rd or 4th little booklet they did, and now he's a successful publisher in New York. And I like these as well as anything. These don't have form. Soon after this, I started on haiku. Well, before that, haiku. Actually, I used haiku even in my first book as a pattern, a stanza pattern. And I'm still using it, and I can write those, but I don't pay much attention to them because they're just to do is all. But I want to read this book, see how it sounds for my own curiosity. I called it A Grasshopper, and Richard Steiner did the cover, and incidentally, he illustrated this new and selected poems a number of years ago. And these are without form, not haiku. A grasshopper, if I'm not loud enough, tell me. A grasshopper of time, he knows nothing, yet knows when to be silent, when loud. The blade of grass he sits on bends, he jumps, and in time dies of time. In the hushed pause before new leaves, no wind blows, no rain falls. On the dusty trail, is it sparrows, gusts of spring wind blowing dry leaves left from autumn over and over, turned as though alive? Still ascending on mud, the withered leaves, bright leaves, the mountain path. Streams loud and full with cold water of rain, not yet tasting of earth. Deafened by the uproar, more sure than ever of quietness. Clear water falling, white fogs rising up. The green warmth seems like oceans. Back into secret folds of the hills with rains and mists. Just one azalea, we cannot recognize it. Here, where a million show purple on the mountains we have come to so often. Leaves as my leafage, waters I swallow and live from. Sweet-voiced birds, harsh-voiced birds, calling from ridge to ridge. Wandering alone in sunshine, I give thanks. After looking at the far-off mountains a while, our eyes must adjust to the nearness of the steep path we stand on. A cluster of small pink chrysanthemums, half open, leans over the body of a cockroach being eaten by ants. To look at the rock was good, yes, but I didn't know I was looking. Sitting with one cat and a million leaves, enough exchange of oxygen for today. Winter stars, summer stars, too far to know these temperatures. Mountain wind mountain wind, its sound high in the trees. A toad as big as my fist and the color of the pathway stares back at me. Branches of cedar spread over us both. Temporary gifts that bring my soul peace tonight. A cricket chirping and the air become cooler. Oh, there is a moon, up high, half full, balanced evenly on the dark, bright sky. Those crickets, oh, those crickets, with only a few more weeks to live. These are the steeper mountains, deeper forests, and I can walk. Silence, then another rush of wind and rain, so everything is shaken and wet all the long night on the mountain. In the indistinguishable pathways of yourself, what frightens you? Please sing for me, terrible tigers, when it is dark so I cannot see you, then in full daylight. Roots and rocks holding on to each other and water seeping out on the mosses, I know I am home again. Silence and also sound of the river flowing, then I fall asleep. On the floor of an abandoned hut, toadstools and gentian flowers, strips of torn bark wavering between roof poles, sky more hidden by branches than by the broken roof. Before it falls, each leaf turns bright. In autumn evenings, all that remains is cricket chanting. Gratitude for leaves remembered as bright landscapes this autumn day. Far, far away in the cold sky, the shadow of the earth gradually covers the moon. He sits in the forest fishing where there is no water. Fallen pine needles, dried up leaves, the happy old man. On the steep, steep trail, a bush with withering leaves and small hard berries purple as violets. In elegance, this fuel to burn is burned. Smoke drifts slowly between the trees. The hoot of the owl was ahead, but now he calls from behind, a turn in the trail. One gentian, one pale azalea, December 1st on the ridge. Descending the mountain path, I keep treading on my own long shadow. On the muddy road through the cedar forest, we sense that perhaps the first snow has fallen on the hidden ridge. Mist lifting a bit, show the mountains whiten just above this rain. In the morning, a pair of small green birds. In the afternoon, an hour-long blizzard. In the sunlight, each pine cone glistening. Just before the sun rays go, crows call to each other from far-off ridges. In the dark gorge below, white patches of snow. Each edge of each branch of each pine, snow. Oh, that bird plump and full-feathered, there he is again in the snowstorm. Facing the nothingness, which direction to go, sunlight on the cold air. On the steep path, away from the prison of the self, camellias lie fallen whole. The perfectly polished mirror, now break it. On undisturbed snow, no one is walking. Tomorrow it will melt. Now, this was a book I did long ago, 1976, but I think my themes are still the same, though I use a different style. The imagery, it's the same. I'm saying the same things over and over. And I like this actually now, formless. I've gotten in the habit of using the haiku form as a stanza pattern. I don't know why, just a habit, I guess. And I like this better. So I may go back to that style. Now, today we have two people who have done things with me before. Let's see, we'll let the girl where is it? Some of you know this book. Mikako Muramatsu, I think. And she's here today, and she translated a very short poem here that I like. And so I'm going to have her read her translation, and if she wants to say something about doing this book. This poem is, well, I think it sums me up as a person. When I think back over all I loved in nearly a century, infants, women, men, animals, plants, rocks, waters, mountains, sky, that concern and joy stays with me. I cannot believe that even being dead will not be meaningful too. All that I loved, I still love. And that energy, even with its sufferings, gives love, gives love. See, do you want to say anything? Where is she? Here, I can't see. I can barely see you in the first row. I found out I have glaucoma. And do you want to say anything about the book?
Would you like to say something about writing the book, your experience?
And or if you want to read your Japanese translation. In Nihongo. In Nihongo. She's a very young woman, but she's on her 4th or 5th book now. I'm very happy that she's successful. Nihongo, most of these people speak Nihongo. So Nihongo, okay. I'm the only one who didn't learn Japanese.
5章を歩いて、これまでの1世紀近い人生で愛してきたものすべてを思う。子供、女、男、動物、植物、岩、水、山、空、かけがえのなさと喜びは私と共にあり、たとえ命が尽きようと、そのために意味が失われるとは思えない。これまで愛してきたものを私は今も愛しているのだから、その強さはどんな苦しみにも負けることなく愛し続け、愛し続けるというふうに続けています。
Thank you. Thank you. So, and we also have Mizuho. I'm sorry, I can't find her last name, Mizuho. Yeah. And she did translated a series of haiku that were in a flower arrangement magazine. Beautiful, as you can see. And Mr. Saito is here. He illustrated them. It was one for each month for a whole year. You can look at them afterward if you want. And she translated a long poem, and I'll have her read the Japanese. I'll read the Eigo, if I can find it. When you don't have peripheral vision, you can't find anything. Yeah, good. Now if that's small print. Yeah, this uses one of my usual images, Kanon. The Kanon represents a lot of things to me. And I think I usually think of it as a feminine image. I don't know why, rather than the masculine. It's supposed to be neither or either. Whatever brings you most comfort, the Kanon supposedly can assume. And Kyoto Etude. Lotus, Hatsu, pure, perfect, something for all not to touch. With them quietness, the color pink 2 meters high, flowers lifted up from a base of blue-green leaves, called sacred for as long as humans could realize that feeling, longing, satisfaction, as though hungry, then fed. The pond water dirty, roots in muck, but the flower has risen of itself to light and rain, is this spontaneous universe of unknown duration. Like the turtles and carp swimming in the next pond, and maples, ginkgos, cedars leaning over them. Dragonflies too are here, and the drone of cicadas. We humans must listen, really see, relax, to let the possible self emerge, simply as the lotus flower. The swimming, the flying, natural growing, but with a consciousness aware to what is feeding us and what surrounds us. Dying is a weaning of the self from all the once beloveds, the places, the self's body, the seeing and walking. Freeing the self from the self, for what? Non-being, non-having? Is it to hold one of these majestic lotus flowers as a Kanon, humbly, compassionately, silent, eternal? This lotus flower stem as tall as my body, oh, how it blossoms. Light and shadows move on pond and lotus leaves. That too flowering. Okay, would you please read it in Nihongo for us? Yes. I'm sorry, my voice must be awful cracked, I can't even see. But I'm stubborn, old lady, regardless, and enjoying.
Kyoto Etude. 蓮よ、蓮華よ、清き全くものよ。畏敬にあふれ、手も触れえぬその静けさ。薄紅の花は七尺の畳に、青緑の葉の礎から伸びやかに立つ。かつて人が憧れ、見出し、そして飢えたものが施されるように満たされるその聖なるものよ。濁り水の池、根は泥にまみれ、しかし花は咲き誇る、人、雨に向かって。このあるがままの世界で、いつとも知れぬ時の間で、亀と鯉とが並び泳ぐ池の表を、楓やイチョウ、杉の木々が覆う。トンボが浮かぶ空、セミの声が包む。 ありのままを聞き眺め、そして心をくつろげよう。内なる覆いはおのずから取り払われる。あの蓮の花のように泳ぐ者、飛び遊ぶ者、自ら生い立ち茂る者のように、やがて人は気づくだろう。生きとし生ける者を取り巻き、養い与える粘土があることに。いつか帰らぬ夢へと自己は解き放たれる。ところ、この体、見たもの、歩んだ道、かつて親しんだものすべては、ただその玉ゆらに消えてしまう。何のための解放なのか。あらぬこと、持たぬこと、それとも謙虚にして慈悲深く、性質にして永遠なる観音の蓮の花、その心を求めとしてのことか。我が身の丈に及ぶこの蓮の花、その見事なる咲きぶりよ。池の表を、蓮の葉の上を、光と影が行き過ぎる。それもまた花である。
Thank you. And thank you for all these. And she's doing more. She may end up doing a whole book of them. I don't know. I hope so. Thank you. And you can look at these afterward that she did. There's one a month in a beautiful magazine. And now I want to read something. These were all in the Kyoto Journal. I think some of you have seen these. But I've done very few poems that are very popular these days. What do you call them? Protest poems, referring to political situations, and so I go at it not in an outward way when I do that, but this is one where I did speak out as a protest poem, and it was in Kyoto Journal. I got that? Yeah. No. A requiem for what we once had. If this beloved world is dying, say your farewells with tears of despair, but say them clearly. The mountains we have trashed, the seas, the fields, remember them at their best, but know they disintegrate back to dark spaces in fires, falling into the eternities of silence again from which they began. And hold your cherishing carefully. Perhaps it can be used again. Shreds saved from grief and knowledge might resurrect as dust fragments, seeds, and one locust emerge years from now, out of storm-torn clouds, black vapors, drought, and lightnings, and an imago burst out having wings in the old chant of a locust. The silenced hosannas might sound again in solitudes. One pair of snow leopards survive on a broken-off crest. A few wolves, too, might miraculously live on, though how we cannot imagine. Ashes and death might return as forms responsive to kindness and intelligence, as a noble horse comes to the held-out hand of one who raised it with gentleness. I have seen the beautiful upward leap of a deer, feet drawn together, and the way a great heron flies with legs trailing elegantly behind. Animals just old enough to walk will come to a human hungry and willingly. Beside highways of cities, weed flowers open between summer heat and the coming freeze. Clover, camelinus, polygonum, sedums, goldenrod, herbs and weeds blooming in the path of elegant exhaust gases of trucks. Ants, spiders, beetles, flies, mosquitoes, bees, worms live well in even the dirtiest places. live overabundant, not cherished, but having struggled out into form and escape, spreading through regenerative generations. Dying and creating, we humans did not begin them, we resulted from them. And the dead fish and birds we ate after slaughter, the fields we burned and planted, crowded, destroyed, sustained us. The simple existing of all forms and tender nurturing, can they be resurrected and create sensate lives again? Turtles, cockroaches, dragonflies, our forms survived from past tumults on earth. They remember in their genes what no person knows and have shared the entire existence of civilizations intimately. Surely they might remain after all others have vanished. But where would there still be sunlit green fields, ponds, dark cracks and corners where they might hibernate or their eggs survive? After cataclysmic fires, will there even be enough moisture remaining for any sort of solitary tears? And I read more and more some scientists saying how the world has got to end soon, but it will come back again, and it will end again and come back again, as your culture describes it in detail. Let's see. How's the time? Can you understand my voice? Good, thank you. Thank you for your patience. These are all haiku, one by Tuttle Company, and this got an award, Haiku Society of America winner, and all of these are illustrated by Akio Saito, only he calls himself something else now. He's got a new name. Saito. And he did the covers and that. Steiner did two of my early books, and then Mr. Saito became a good friend, and he did the illustrations on everything else. Now let me see, what was I going to do? What am I looking? Oh, here. I got so much I don't know what to do. Oh, here's a light one. Apple in April, the birds are wild with joy, knocking each other off the second-story windowsill for the chopped bits. Desire abundant in all five Hyodori, and the deliciousness of being fed fruit apparent. My desire for their gratification becomes an irresistible silliness as I cut up more, open the window and put it out amid the pink new leaves of maples bouncing up and down from breezes and the moving weight of the birds, all of us innocents. This is an Alaska memory, the snowshoer. The snowshoer fades off into a white distance, a few scrub pines to right and left, beige stalks of dried grasses thrust up here and there in clumps along the way of oval imprints in the foreground, as though I had stayed behind and watched. The fur trimming the parka hood, wolverine, alternated dampness and ice when pushed nearer and farther from breathing. Alternately, feet lifted a bit, came down, crunching, slid forward, gliding, and the central body warmed in its exercise. Such a long time ago, in a place too far to get to now. The plodding was intense excitement, solitary, straight toward the Mount St. Elias range, weighted down with everlasting glaciers. And what pride returned in a circular way to the cabin, to see side by side with my snowshoe imprints, indentations in the snow where a wolf had been walking just behind me. I know he still trails my steps in a white silence communicated. so I had not known he was there. I've got lots of poems using Buddhist imagery. This I call the sentient vision. I can't say this right. Sukhavati Vyuha Sutra. Is that, how do you say that? Sukhavati Sutra or Muyoku Kyo. If desire is for a dream of jewels embedded in gold, there it is now. If desire is for a dream of waterfalls and mosses, there it is. If heaven seems the closeness of a loving, beloved human, there it is. And even in poverty and oppression, in barren leveled hills, a desert, in utter loneliness, there it is. Light and energy in unlimited areas and hours, ideas and emotions in fragile human minds, there they are. Tenderly kiss the longed-for face, walk easily beside the mountain stream, wear the gemmed diadem easily, there they are. The suffering too, unlimited in space and time, there it is. The mercy and the wisdom too, there they are now. Always existent, unlimited, to be received and to be given. This one I call Etudes, and this is from Buddhist Philosophy by Herbert Gunther. In choiceless activity. In choiceless activity, sprays of bamboo leaves, motioned as parts or moving as one, our trees, our wind, our act of displacing air, pushing resilience. And I relax watching what is nothing at all perform upon leaves and stems. That rotation turns paradise smoothly as any sea or gaseous nebula. Hammocked on such a universe, body continues what it is, in fluctuations smaller than season or zone, but well worth praise. The mysterious quest of aimlessly searching between tall stems of bamboos, almost obscured in foliage, deeper and deeper peering through their edges and up and down their verticals, shows gradually small spaces, irregular cracks and shapes of light as what is being seen. Dark light, green as deep water light, and bits of golden radiant light open all around between the substances. Reach and you may touch one smooth straight trunk of bamboo, one slender pointed leaf, and have the shining upon your own absorbed hand. Another in the same series, aesthetically perceiving. Aesthetically perceiving sky like a lotus flower out of muddied earth, enthrones the setting sun and rising moon. So intelligence pictures their rapt action, moving over the sky, now visible, now not visible. But always there in its bowl of sacred lotus petals, always the radiance by which a sky is defined. Cognizant, feel that lustrous emptiness. Now, what was I looking for now? Oh. This is happening in Hawaii. I was there through the entire Second World War. And the last month, we felt free to take a vacation trip, and we were inside the crater of Haleakala. Wild goat, Capra. Alone inside the crater of Haleakala on Maui, perhaps the week of the first atomic bombing, a complete quietness, then a frantic bleating, a lost baby goat searching for its mother. That's a vast crater. Takes you a day to walk the length of it. I answered his call, and he called back from half a mile across the crater, repeatedly, until I could see him, small and thin-legged but quick across the lava. He ran to where I knelt, right into my arms. For just a moment, that quivering body pressed into mine. Then he knew I was not his mother, no kin at all. Relief became fear. He broke free, ran until gone. Panic cries fainter, fading with no more echo, gone. Only the wind sound remained, and my strange deep feeling of sorrow and loneliness within that majestic hollow on top of a volcano in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Here's another Hawaii one about during the war years. A memory. Today I imagine seeing again the broad slopes of Mauna Loa as in my years in Kona. After pushing through vines and shrubs above the house, I would reach a certain avocado tree and climb to where, bending my head, I could see upward to the summit crater of volcanic fire. Then I would look downward to the Kona coast, the edge of the Pacific where the sun went nightly beyond the distances of water. Sometimes orange cat gator came with me, and together we stared down, up, around trees, and I could not envision ever possibly leaving the side of this mountain. Sometimes the sky reddened for months, the land shaken by fire inside the volcano, air darkened with falling ashes. In a time of war, no ships to the island, we without funds, there forever. But we were young like the cat, not sad nor afraid, though he soon died. Just below in Keahu Bay, a Japanese submarine parked week after week. Since then, for over half a century, I have learned I can live in other places. Let's see, where's what I'm looking for? Yeah, this is small print. I don't know if I can read these. From cracks of a rock. That being could come somewhat like gentians may be strongly felt, not as sentimental, but factually. From cracks of a rock, here are distinct blue openings gathering in light until frost is followed by snow, and there again before the snow is scarcely gone. I love Rindo gentian very much. Evensong. Whatever is for this while perceived knows what I am. There mountains and a section of space called sky. Here senses both particular and emergent. I and the granite rock as much as the dark clouds of evening beginning can speak of it, anticipate the coming coolness, and when it comes, feel it. This is joyous to some special sense other than seeing, touching, thought. I stand at evening within the sky. In the garden, the waiting, quiet, quiet, shrubs all quiet, pruned and wrapped until winter goes. Oh, then birds, leaves, roses come again, and again they go. In this cold air with their snow, mountains shine above the garden, and here greenness waits for warmth, wrapped, quiescent until it comes. The burning. Be a rose, glory come forth, now a moment fully aflame. Be flame arisen vital, alive as a rose, alive in a fire in being. Then all is close to beginning and end. Time endured as burst out color. Then what is burned is self, existent, from rosebud to ash, root and fuel. On contemplating a far journey by air, the beautiful planet where I dwelt for long now drifts away. The fauna and the flora I had learned gone too, and its fair airs. What time is now released from its attraction? What lonely place my space? A gravity still pulls, I see it shine, far off, too far to go, yet I was there, I breathed its atmosphere. Its seasons touched me then. Its flowers were like cool gentians in its hills. Its ferns were freshly green. Now in one sky we move apart, so home is neither there nor here. Traveler, have you been? Can you say too, it was a lovely place? And a similar sonnet. Flora and fauna of the sojourn here on earth have kept me glad, often when history of self and others harmed the days. Toad I sat by, crickets heard, ginkgo golden leaves, and humans share the water, share the sunlight, darkness and evaporation. Now that skin thins and hair is paler than it was, to find columbine and gentian blue as during infancy confirms what faith there is in lingering upon earth's hills without a reason. Paths are countless, but my day is one. Which shall I travel to the most hidden valley? Behind the branches of that pine where a white heron crouches, will rocks loosen and tumble down if I try to climb up? Insatiable longings for a truth keep my feet wandering until satisfied. In the next field, half lost in grasses, are the blue gentians what I looked for? Coldness, all winter on leafless vines, berries purple and red, dried grasses golden above snow, sunlight gives my coldness shining too. Namu Amida Butsu. Myself that wanted to be saved, only if all others were too. How many aeons was it in being, and how many more will it be? It was me, and it is, but it was no one, it was never. The will of wanting a purity of existence intensely was. I am here now, and who am I? It is not at all relevant. A dream goes on and on. We are all already in it, blessed, serene. I ask each summer what is the flower on the bush of thorns, and again when snow clings to the red what the hard berries. And what is the need of a constant quest which ends in forgetting? Standing in sunlight. This is the morning hour we talked about, standing in sunlight on the riverbank. How the white herons flew to find in winter such a bright haven in its flocks of gulls. And we noticed when the water rose after a rainy night and when it fell. And so we studied what each other saw and guessed the weather of our days from that. Look at 100 herons settling down upon the river. Only a moment, then they move upstream. How wonderful to see the movement of the parts that make them one pattern of integration. Our delight rises between us back and forth and settles down on our memories as though we stayed bright on these winter grasses all our life. That was from living, I think 9 years on the Takanogawa, and the birds, the grand big birds used to come every winter. Judy, you have some idea that you wanted to?
You mentioned you just wrote a new poem.
I can't hear you.
You just said, you told me, you just did a new poem.
A new
recently.
poem? Oh,
The very
let's see.
newest one.
Yeah.
Would you like
Mika
to?
just typed them up. Let's see. I haven't had a chance to look at this typed manuscript yet. Oh, no, that's the essay. And I'm going to have some haiku essays, I guess they call them, in a book Dennis Malonis is publishing in Buffalo. And for those of you who are interested in the net, whatever that is, University of California is presently indexing my material. They have my archive, and it will be on the University of California's online Archive of California website. You who know that stuff know what it is.
The reading was made into a DVD, which is being sent to the archives, and then that will be put on the internet.
Yeah, the copes too, and they have all my books and everything else. And University of California, Santa Cruz, where my archive is combining with all the branches of the University of California for the online thing, whatever that is. I've never heard one, so I don't know. But I don't have the equipment for it.
Well, I'd like to, if you can read one poem from Ohara, because
Yes.
now that Edith has moved out to Ohara, there's a new, well, you might call it the Ohara phase. And there's new poetry coming out of her new
Yes.
residence and the new scenery that she has.
Well, it's the same imagery, though, the flowers and small mountains and walking. Every day I try to walk at least 1 hour inside the garden there. And sometimes I do it twice a day. That's my natural medicine. They have the mists there, and the mountains appear and disappear. They're very small mountains, but the mists hide them and they're gone. You turn around, it's different again. I can imagine dying in one of these swirls of mist, hiding small Ohara mountains momentarily, and then clearing while low clouds pass on to other slopes, and the dying would be silent, self-fulfilled as these forests of rain-wet hydrangeas, making their purple glow as meditative hermits, rapturous in actual visionings. The world now and to come, the cosmos now and to come, and whatever it is we become, may they be blessed with spontaneous being, like roses and lilies, like tall lotus flowers, and these soft-toned purple hydrangeas. Yeah, the hydrangeas will be full bloom very soon now, and they were gorgeous last year. There's the color everywhere out where I am. Well, this is written there, but I'm remembering other places I've lived. If I were delirious, eventides, if I were delirious and asked myself, where am I, what place is this, I might respond deep in from my brain, in Kona, at twilight with a just picked papaya, in a sack with a few strawberry guavas, plumeria, while sunset brightened down, down far out into the Pacific in its middle. Or it could be evening after evening in summer at twilight on a Detroit porch, imagining the beloved sitting beside me while we breathed in the air just slightly cooled. Or those years on Mount Si overlooking forests with the dog and white cat, pretending myself a hermit, which perhaps I was. Crow flocks going homeward, the scene fading into just mountains and first stars seen. Or all the other endings of days, watching light go, with cats on the walls looking too as sky becomes darker and silence suddenly become known as night. Just as now, here in O'Hara, with the small mountains all around dimming, the hawk's first daytime birds gone, the far-off sound of a passing jet plane, clouds opening and closing so sky comes and goes with forests and mountains as though it were centuries of watching twilights, breathing night air, relaxed as though earth were a paradise and we in a place of constant peace, ready to rest from a day that was good. And in Alaska, only sky, not yet twilight, even at midnight, but glows of purple, red, and gold spread over the whole veil of the sky, with silence and calls of swans and loons. Any questions or comments or something? I've got enough here to go on for 2 more hours, but I can't, and I think you're getting tired.
Would anyone like to ask any questions?
Hi.
Do you find that words get in the way of your experience? Does it become an irritation or something?
I didn't get the last part. Along with being blind, I'm deaf.
I'm not very clear, but do you find that words get in the way of your experience?
No, because that's been my lifelong habit. And as I said, when I was very little, my father liked to recite nursery rhymes, Mother Goose, and sing and everything. My earliest memory is him carrying me at night and singing when I was howling. And I don't clearly remember, but I do in a way. And so that has always been there with me. And Robert Louis Stevenson. And been going through my mind lately, under the wide and starry sky, dig my grave and let me lie. Glad did I live and gladly die, and I lay me down with a will. This be the verse she graved for me. Home is the sailor home from the sea, and the hunter home from the hill. I love that. Robert Louis Stevenson, very simple, but I like him. And there's 2 of Yeats, but I can't recite those that are with me all the time. When you are old and gray and full of sleep, I can't imitate his voice. I used to from hearing a recording. When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take up this book and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of the sorrows deep within. I don't remember the rest, but I love that. And this other one that I like is Anyway, never mind.
How about this one?
Okay.
Edith,
There's some
thank
you like, but I don't
do
remember
so.
which ones they were.
Yeah, on lots more poetry
Oh,
on
yeah, I read you
mortality.
this on the telephone.
Yes. So I guess
Light
you-
rain, that's the end of this. Yeah, the tree gnarled and bent, sharp angled and bare, glorious upon the dark wet sky, and I finding rapture in the December afternoon, because there was silence and bare spaces in all directions. The mountains were low, but what I had wanted for looking up at, and the clouds draped down from them, a scene for marveling even without imagining. Light rain pushed through smoke and smoke through light rain until the sight was perfected, far off ridges gleaming, an entire cedar forest seen in a single glance, with the trillionth day quietly ending and no more visible than on other days. The day after the last, that music again as though it were real, and I am sure I felt my heart still beating. Thanks, Mika. Your typing is, where he is. Your typing I can see without glasses. Good. It's nice and dark and big enough. I have drunk the holy waters, though if asked where they were found, I could not say nor remember. I longed for the tastes not really sweet, not actually bitter, rather mild, but stomach filling and warming, refreshingly cool everywhere around me. I could say it was memories of encounters with wide open eyes, hands held open waiting to receive the blessing that is nothingness, satisfied, the aftertaste still acute. The sky last night, again tonight, suddenly clearing after a day of heavy clouds to clear blue, and the few remaining clouds strung out in a line, golden, a glow increasing, a fire, a bursting slowly into spreading light. Then the abrupt ending, the whole sky dark, and I ready to sleep, simply satisfied, though I do not fully understand why nor need to. Yeah, and that, of course, I'm referring to my death there, too, and I'm facing that this way. I ready to sleep, simply satisfied, though I do not fully understand why, nor need to. But it's getting time because I'm getting kind of clumsy. Space is thick with white flakes of frozen rain, now airy floating. The pair of hawks waits in their tower to see the last of day turn red and orange and then disappear but for reflections on a few stars far, far off in a different space, where even death is not known because it has no life we know. To know what silence is, just be, then slowly start to listen. If nothing, there is possibility, slightest or fullest. A simple dripping of rain or a full river. A self responds. Nothing, nothing. How pure it is. When the quiet is gone, we want it back again. Hawks from their tower above deep snow this morning soar up, swoop down, up. It's interesting, the hawks, what I call a hawk tower, adjoining the property where we are, had a pair of hawks when we went there, and they were there for the first year and a half. And then with the bird crisis, they disappeared. And I'm hoping they took them to some place of safety. They were afraid they might be contaminated. Just about the time they found that a couple of crows were diseased. So maybe, because they were semi-tame, and they were, I think they recognized me because when I'd go out walking, they'd like greet me flying around. I love hawks. Reading these, I see I have the same images over and over again. Maybe that's good, maybe it's bad, I don't know. It doesn't make any difference anyway. It means I'm still enjoying saying, hey, what?
Question?
I recently
I'm sorry.
I recently bought an old recording of archives of poets reading their poetry,
Oh,
including Robert Browning.
Oh.
And I particularly enjoyed listening to E. Cummings
oh
read
yes.
a poem about his father. And this was one of the most moving poems.
Yes.
Also,
Did you
W.
hear
Yeats
Was
also-
Yeats on it?
Yeats was also on it. Reading
Oh yes,
a poem and talking
his
about-
voice is wonderful. That Irish voice.
Yes.
And
it
yet,
was
and it
also
doesn't
Ezra
sound
Pound.
affected. It's
Ezra
beautiful.
Pound was imitating the voice of a Scotsman
Oh.
and playing drums.
Oh,
Perhaps I can lend you this. Yes. Anyway, I wondered if you'd ever met E. Cummings.
if I ever met who?
him.
Who?
E. Cummings.
No, I didn't, and I didn't have intimate contact with him at all. I was in Theodore Retke's workshops for several years and acquainted with him as a friend for about 8 years in Seattle. And he, of course, knew all the poets of his time, and he spent some weeks with Yeats's widow in their home. And he loved to tell stories about the poets, wonderful stories, true stories, of course, as he knew them all. He was an intimate friend of Dylan Thomas, and just before his death, they used to go out and get drunk together. Anybody else want to say something?
Can you read a sestina? Can you find?
Oh, yeah, Sestina. Let's see, that's in an early book. Yeah, no, it's in 2 books. Yeah, Sestina. In 2 books, no, not in that.
Sestina is a kind of poem where
Of gradual tumult and a motion of a shadow. Do you know either of those? And what's the other book that they're in? Got 2 others. Anyway, this is, I think about my life. I was 2 years at one of the Myoshinji temples, and I did these there, I think. No, this is before that. This is one. It's back farther here, I think. Grasshopper. I think that was after this. No, I'm sorry. Well, I'll read this one. Sometimes when I was younger, I did more formal, elaborate poems, and this is a very repetitious pattern, but I made my lines shorter than the classic sestina. This is the small print. In days of gradual tumult, in sunlight's burning quiet, the liquid shine of ices opens another flower. The melt of streaming water bends down a bed of grasses. In darkness, trampled grasses may lift themselves. The tumult of slower streams of water may stiffen into quiet. Unseen at night, a flower may burst and crust with ices. I keep a shape of ices, a tangle of tall grasses, wanting to touch a flower. My body holds a tumult and moves in nervous quiet without a home but water. Thoughts come out from the water, dissolving from warmed ices, and in a sudden quiet grow into ripened grasses. The mind in steady tumult knows an imagined flower. The quiver of the flower in melted drops of water loosens the breath of tumult out of the ego's ices. I feel recurrent grasses lift into a quiet. Out of the risen quiet of the shaken flower and the recurrent grasses, a splash of fresh water sunders the earthly ices to an enlightened tumult. A tumult bears its quiet ices, drips of flower to water, bends grasses. The other 2 are, maybe they're here, Kyoto years. I can't remember anymore what I did or didn't do. Let's see, it's right here somewhere. But instead I'll read one I like, Hagoromo. Where is that, Hagoromo? Romo. 73. I don't know if any of you knew Lindley Williams Hubble. The first 3 years I was in Kyoto, I was one of his guests in his, I think it's Kongo no Gakudo box. And that was wonderful. That stays with me forever. And this is about Hagoromo, and I tried to get the rhythms of the no in it. I'll tell the story. A fisherman finds a feathery robe, an angel left on a branch of pine. She says she can only return to heaven with her robe returned. Angelic sorrow moves him to give it if she will dance, but she must dance first, then receive her robe, as she might fly off. But when he is told angels do not behave as men, he is ashamed and hands back the garment. She puts it on, dances for him, blesses the land, and disappears. This is a poem, a dance, a drama, a chanting with sounds that the spirit feels, a display of fabrics and poses, two psyches, heaven and man, encounter each other on the same shore, and one can dance and one watch. Postures keep slight, movement slow. The fisherman in browns of sand and old leaves. The angel wears a brilliant robe over robe, cream, vermilion, green and gold silk, appliqued, embroidered, dyed, woven, a material being to show the ideal. Is this the pure and what is of earth? Are these one person coming to joy within a myth children hear and everyone knows? Are these skills, crafts, arts simply displayed to relax people knowing them well? The man in the robe with his heavenly mask, catching the light, walks a tilt and seems to float and drift with his white clothed feet off the floor, polished so smooth it reflects his light. He is a bird, he is a woman, he is himself, a freed apparition known of the air. And what of the fisherman watching the dance after sympathy, shame, and repentance? What does he see, and what can he do but be a tale teller of his odd hour? An angel danced and then vanished. A chorus chants it, drums and flute play. The robe flutters, the headdress trembles, the mask vibrates. This world is fragile, a visionary, dreamed of joy and awoke sad. The man with no mask watches on the stage and is forgotten. He saw the angel. She danced for him. She is his poem. And I think my voice is about had it. Thank you for listening. You should have heard me a few years ago. Okay, thank you.
So we have some refreshments back there. Please help yourself. If you haven't contributed, we'd ask you to make a little donation. There's a dish back there. If you'd like to come up and speak to Edith, please do. Thank you very much. Very nice. Now would you like some tea?
Just some water, just water.